Okay, so we were at 5 minutes, so I like to break them in every 5 minutes. Okay, so you were saying you wanted to add up the totals to get the probability that all three hit.
Yeah.
Okay. 3/5 is about what as a decimal?
It's about, that would be 0.6.
0.6. What's 3/4 as a decimal?
Well, it's 0.75.
What can you tell me about 0.6 plus 0.75?
Well, it's going to be bigger than 1.
So you think the probability is bigger than 1 that all
No.
three hit?
No,
No.
probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
So
So I don't think adding probabilities
would be,
work. It gets a little complicated when you start adding probabilities.
What if you multiply them?
Well, when you multiply them, what do you get? You would get 3/5 times 3/4 times 5/7.
well,
What would that represent?
Well,
it would represent,
it would represent how many times. It would how many times this guy hit, times how many times that guy hit, times how many times that guy hit.
Okay, it's the probability that this guy hits the target, times the probability this guy hits the target, times the probability that that guy hits the target. And so what would that mean? How should we interpret that number?
Well, it could be the probability that all three of them hit the target.
Yeah, because this guy hitting the target doesn't have anything to do with this guy hitting the
No.
target, right? Those events are independent of each other. So if we multiply the probabilities together, we'll get the probability that all three hit the target.
Yep.
Yeah? But 2 hitting the target is going to be very difficult to calculate, and so is 1 hitting the target.
well,
You'd have to wouldn't you have to calculate these two guys hitting together, these two guys hitting together, and these two guys hitting
Well-
together? Or would it be more complicated than that?
It might be even a little more complicated than that, but there is a number here that's easy to calculate.
well,
How about 0?
How would we calculate the probability that nobody hits the target?
Well, this guy doesn't hit the target 2/5 of the time.
All right.
This guy doesn't hit the target 1/4 of the time.
and then that guy doesn't hit the target 2/7 of the time.
Okay.
So then you can multiply those together.
And what do you get when you multiply those together?
Yeah.
You get 4 1/44.
1/40th, you mean?
Yeah, 1/40.
4 1/40. Does that simplify it all?
Well, you could
yeah, because
you could take a 2 out of it, and then
it'd be 2 out of
70, and then we can go down to 1 out of 35.
1 out of 35. So the probability that they all miss is 1 out of 35.
Well, if you calculate the probability that all 3 hit the target, can you divide to get the probability that one person hits the target? Can you divide that by 3?
I see something interesting.
Before you say whatever you're going to say, no. The answer, unfortunately, is no. You can't just divide by 3. But it looks like you might be able to. But we could give some examples where that would not work.
Yeah.
What do you see?
So you hit 0 hit 1/35 of the time.
Yep.
So you have 34 35ths left.
Okay.
Because it didn't say you had to calculate each one individually.
Sure didn't.
Well,
These ones up here must add up to 34 out of 35.
And then
How
you-
come?
because you have all of these together add up to 1.
Right. Something has to happen. All the probabilities have to add up to 1.
So that you just have to divide these up into a number of 35ths, where this number is double that number, and this number is triple.
Well, you don't need to,
Not quite, actually.
because it didn't say you had to calculate each
But-
one
right.
individually.
Your brother is pointing out you don't have to calculate each one of these individually, and they might not be in the ratio of 1 to 2 to 3. We don't know for sure. Okay, but what does 34 over 35 represent?
That's That's where at
probably
least one hits. It's the total number where one hits, the total number where two hits, and the total number where three hits.
Wasn't that what we're asking?
That's what they were asking, yeah.
Cool.
So it's actually pretty neat. We found the probability that no one hits is 1 out of 35. That means the probability that somebody hits is 34 out of 35. And that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, on to the next problem.